Hi YouTube, hi people who are here during the recording. So basically, I made a promise that I am yet to uphold, so I'm going to do it right now. But basically, Shane Dawson went on the Steve-O podcast. This fan is actually making me really, really, really cold. Now I'm like shaking. And I watched a section from it where he was talking about like his cancellation and like moving on from his cancellation and stuff like that, right? And I haven't watched the entire thing, and people wanted me to watch the entire thing, and I'm very excited to watch this because apparently this is like the first time we're really, and clearly, look at that, Shane Dawson in all caps. I was very excited for this. Apparently this is like the first podcast in a very long time from Shane that we really are like hearing him talk about, you know, things because he's being like actually asked questions and stuff like that. So I'm very excited for it. Let's get into it. Without further ado, this is on Steve-O's Wild Ride podcast. All right, let's get into it. So there is a section that we have watched in this, and I assume it's probably this most replayed part. Whenever I get to it, depending on how... Who's driving the bus? Oh my god, a little dog. Depending on how boring or exciting or whatever the parts were before and after it, I will skip it or watch it again. We'll kind of talk amongst ourselves. We'll figure it out. All right, let's get into it. Oh my god, this podcast.
Hey everybody.
Oh, that was cool.
To Wild Ride with Steve-O. This week we're talking to Shane Dawson, who clearly has made some serious mistakes. And while to meet Shane Dawson, we watched a video about all of the mistakes he's made. And a lot of it was news to us by the time we got to him.
You know what I appreciate, though? What I do appreciate at bare minimum, and this is, like, literally bare minimum, but what I appreciate is that someone has, like, done research on someone before they bring them on. Like, there's so many people who will, like, have, like, Shane on their podcast. And then, they'll get like a bunch of backlash and they'll be like, oh my god, sorry, like I didn't know any of this stuff. I appreciate if someone's going to have him on that they at least, look at my fucking tab by the way, I need to redo it, that someone's honest at least in like, oh, like we've already watched the video. I assume it's the D'Angelo one.
We thought, wow, we wonder if this is even a good idea, but we decided to press forward with an open mind and a heart of compassion. And I gotta say that we are glad we did that. It is what it is, and it is certainly extremely interesting, and I dare say extremely compassionate. So with that said...
Is this the key word that we're gonna, like, use today? Compassion. Can we get some compassions in the chat, please? Open your heart, chat. Let the compassion roll in. My god, how many times did he say compassion there?
And let's get into it. You ready?
Oh, that dog.
Yes, sir.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Shane Dawson.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, dude. So, we met once before when we did your podcast for...
Did who date Cat Von D?
That was a long time ago, huh?
That was... How many cancellations ago was that? I think that was...
The dog. This is... Oh, we're already opening it on this. Why would you say that? Like, why are we already opening it on this? Literally not even... Like, it says 1:20, but we're probably 10 seconds into the thing.
Was 4. 4.5. There was a half there.
Man.
That was, yeah.
We watched a video that kind of chronicled all of the cancellations.
Oh my god.
Are we going to show up on some sort of list having you on?
Oh, I think I know what happened. So that clip that we watched was like a condensed version of him just talking about the cancellations and stuff like that. So we may as well let it play. And I'll kind of talk over it instead of, like, stopping it, just because we, you know a couple parts of this. But, again, there's, like, an hour. We only watched, like, 15 minutes.
What was interesting was that, like, they said that in some cases people will, like, build careers, become famous, and then do something, like, super offensive to people. But in this case of Shane Dawson, he That is not
his
what
career
happened.
off
That
rip.
that like Shane Dawson was super offensive the whole time. That's actually like what he became famous for, kind of. So then it's like, it's just an interesting dynamic where you were just a
It's an interesting dynamic. Shane Dawson's career that he built it on cancellations. Okay.
people just got upset about it after the fact.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, no, it was a lot. I mean, listen, like I'm not one of those people that's mad that I got canceled. I mean, maybe in the beginning I was
I'm not one of those
Yeah,
people
'cause
that got mad that I was cancelled, but I was
a long
mad.
time ago, and a lot of this stuff was from a long time ago, and I hadn't done anything like that in years. But I mean, I'm also kind of glad it all happened because it made me face a lot of things and realize.
Wouldn't you say that you're glad, or that you're, like, that you wished you hadn't have done those things, rather than being like, I'm glad the cancellation happened, so it made me have to face what I did? Wouldn't you say that you just wish you wouldn't have done the things instead? Like, wouldn't that be the better thing to say?
Yeah, a lot of things.
Right. So what has been what's been going on recently? You remember maybe when we got together like all those years ago, I think I called up my niece on the phone, or maybe we made a video and sent it to my niece, but my niece was just such a rabid Shane Dawson fan. And I texted her yesterday. I said, you still like a fan of
God.
Shane Dawson?" She said, "Yeah." Like I said, "Oh, because we're gonna record a podcast with him tomorrow." And she goes, "WTF? Oh my God, that's great!" And she said, "From what I gather, he's doing."
I'm glad it happened because it made me take a long ass vacation. Yeah, remember he came back and was like, "Oh, like I just had 2 years to, just take time off." My God, he got a retreat out of it.
Your cancellation, so to speak, was with like the mainstream media, and that under in kind of your world, sort of under that radar, that everything's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like when I started doing YouTube, the people that were watching were, I think.
Do we want to give them a name? Do we want to give them a name? The ones that were enjoying the content of you at that stage, do we want to give them a name? Because there's a name for them. There's probably records of them too.
Types of people that were watching my stuff changed in like 2018, 2019, and I started doing things about makeup, and I think it opened up to, and not to make excuses, but I think I started doing YouTube
Not to
videos
make
for
excuses,
kind of
but
like
here's one.
fucked up, weird, outcast people, and then the more mainstream YouTube got, and the more I was doing documentaries on documentaries, people don't like me when I call them that, but I was doing.
I've already said this in my other one. Maybe I will skip forward this a little bit. I appreciate that he doesn't call them documentaries anymore. He's been bullied out of calling them documentaries. Okay, wait.
Trending anymore if you're not this anymore, and then the up and the down and the enemies, and it's like the mob. Like it was.
In what
crazy.
sense? The makeup world or like the YouTube world?
I think the YouTube world. I mean, the YouTube world's like dramatic, I guess. I mean, but it's more low stakes. With the makeup world, it's people that.
Low stakes? Weren't we talking about like $20 million deals and stuff like this? These people are so out of touch. My fiance just shouted, "Are you watching Steve-O?" I love Steve-O. What? Okay, well.
There was just always something going on with these big companies because, they're making so much money. It was.
And $20 million on makeup isn't? What?
That was a lot. I'm happy that I love Jeffrey so much, but I'm happy I'm less around all the business stuff.
Yeah. You say that with trending and not trending. It's crazy to have a career in YouTube for 15 years. Yeah. I mean, that's like YouTube is so by definition just fickle, like there's always something new, and like it's pretty impressive that you've endured for as long as you have.
Yeah. No, I think about that a lot. I mean, I'm really grateful. Like, it's been
Hi, Wes.
It's been interesting. I mean, I started YouTube when it wasn't like a job or anything. People weren't making money from it, and I just was posting these weird videos like with my grandma and stuff.
Do we want to talk about what kind of videos you were making with your grandma? Because we know the kind of ones you were making with your mother.
But I always wanted to make stuff. I just didn't know YouTuber. I mean, it wasn't a thing. Sorry, I don't know if I'm making any sense. I don't know how to do this.
It makes perfect sense.
Didn't you have a podcast?
I don't know. I was literally about to say, doesn't he have his own podcast? He goes, I don't know how to do this. Or, you have your own podcast.
Wes says he loves you too.
Hi, Wes.
Lol.
You have your own podcast. What do you mean?
Yeah, but here's the problem is I haven't I used to have a podcast where I would interview people.
Yeah.
And then I stopped doing that. I did that for years, and then I have a podcast
Came back to bite you in the ass, didn't it, Shane? That podcast.
now where it's like me, my husband, my brother, our camera guy, and we sit and we just talk about random stuff. And I kind of lead the conversation and set up the little segments.
You deflect the conversation away from all your shit.
Yeah, because I'm,
Haven't you talked about this stuff before though, or just not publicly?
I don't think I've talked about it yeah, not really. I'll touch on things in podcasts a little bit, but then I kind of stop because I don't want to. It's hard. It's
Bonnie, behave yourself. Sorry, Dolly just tried to take her treat. Let her have it.
hard to talk about stuff because if you talk about it, people think you're trying to be a victim. If you say about certain things, they think you're manipulating or you're trying to change the narrative or all this shit. And so I just don't talk about anything.
I mean, the fact that you're nervous about it is pretty authentic, I think, and it's better than having being.
All right, because we've seen part of this. Again, we haven't seen 15 consecutive minutes. It has been cropped together, but I do know that for the next couple minutes, he goes on to talk about that he's so grateful for Shane being so honest, and that because Shane is playing with his hands, he knows that Shane is nervous to talk about his cancellation. This is me literally summing it up for you. This is all they talk about for minutes on end. And because Shane is nervous to talk about it, it means he regrets the things that he's done, and people should forgive him because he's nervous to talk about it and he's not confident to talk about it, which means that therefore, he means, whenever he says he's sorry. And then Shane goes on to say that, he made his apology video, out of kind of spite, and, he was really pissed off to be cancelled. So that's what happens within this next couple seconds, but we've seen this.
I'm
you're
doing
showing
good.
up to do a podcast.
Right.
That's not yours. That's
Right.
good.
But, the last 2 years after I got canceled, and I was I'm done. Not making any videos ever again. I'm done. I went through, not to get too, whatever, but it was really bad. And then we moved. We moved to Colorado. That's where my husband's family is, and I'm really close to them. And I just wanted to get away for a bit. And also we found this house out there that was unexpected out there. And I had the best year of my whole life. 2020 was really bad, and 2021 was I wasn't on my phone, I wasn't on the internet.
This is such an interesting conversation to have, where it's you're actively saying that you got canceled because, you made horrific content for 15 years, horrific. And then you're being oh, well, it was a really bad year whenever I got canceled, 2020. By the way, it was a bad year for us all, 2020. And then you're but the next year, I had the greatest year of my entire life. I got to take the best vacation ever. I got to, maintain my money. I got to buy a new, multi-million-dollar mansion. I got to move to a different state. How are we supposed to sympathize with you? How are we supposed to sympathize and be oh my god, he was done so dirty during the cancellation, whenever you're literally saying that the cancellation, something that should have literally been very detrimental to your career, which it wasn't, you're saying that it was it was a blessing because the next year you got to take all this time off. You didn't have to work for an entire year because you got to then, buy a house with the money that you had. You didn't have to work for the money, and you didn't have to how are we supposed to feel bad for you then? I'm sorry. Does this yeah, it is a conversation about privilege, where you're oh my god, I got fired from my job basically because I was, all of these different horrendous things. But being fired was the greatest thing to happen to me because it gave me a year to not be on my phone and, keep my multi-million-dollar mansion, buy another one, sell my other one, make a profit, move state, eat yak meat, all this, bullshit, where it's okay, you're losing your sense of appeal that we want to feel bad for you because you're actively saying that, oh, you're actually kind of grateful to have gotten canceled. Chloe said, if he would have said it was a blessing because he got to reflect and learn and address and be honest with people, it would be completely different. But he's literally saying that, he's not saying that he took a year off and, he got to reflect within that time. He's saying he took a year off and he got to have the most amazing year buying houses and, just relaxing and stuff like that. And it's like, okay.
And it was the best year ever. And then,
there we go.
And then around the end of 2021, I started thinking like, I do want to make stuff again. And like you said, it's like, I'm obviously ashamed of a lot of the old videos and the old sketches and stuff. But like you said, it's not like a secret thing. I didn't hurt anyone. I mean, I guess I hurt feelings, but I didn't physically hurt anyone. I didn't rape anyone. I didn't do anything to where I should be in hiding.
Again, I said this in my video, so we'll skip another couple minutes in, but I think it's important to touch upon again that I think that when you're saying that I do not have a single victim, and that's why, like, my cancellations went too far, I do not have a victim, is such a crazy thing to say, because, oh my god, just so many things come to mind. It's so crazy to say that, because there are people who were at your meet and greets who, now look back and be like, wow, that YouTuber used that power imbalance to, kiss me and didn't tell me no whenever I said it, or, sharing gum with me, just weird shit like that, down to Willow Smith, knowing that, someone was able to help make a career out of and get a boost in their career because they were pretending to, like, ejaculate over a poster of you at 13 years old. Like, the minors that you and your mother sat on Omegle with and asked them to twerk while you recorded them, I don't know with their permission or without their permission, I mean, they were too young to consent to be really filmed anyway, and posting that online is crazy. And dare I go on? Because there's other examples. Like,
stomach is fucking eating itself and you feel like you're dying and you fight or flight and all that shit.
It's called anxiety.
Yes. yeah, exactly. So I would go through that a lot, and I was trying to explain it to her, and then literally like 2 months later I got canceled. And I would say it was bad. Like, it was probably the worst cancel situation I've seen, and it was so intense, and it like fucked up my family and like my friends, and it was really bad. But luckily I was in therapy, so she was guiding me through the whole thing, and now it's been 2.5 years, and I'm so good. So I don't want you to think I'm like...
Is it true that at the point when...
So, like, the cancellation fucked up his family and fucked up whatever. I mean, say that to the videos you filmed with your cousin. The content you filmed with your mother. Like, there's... Your family have also done shit. Like, on YouTube.
When it really kind of took a left turn.
Your cancellation was the worst because your actions were the worst, yeah.
Like 40 million views per video. What can I say? Numbers matter. And if you can put together...
Is that a spawn ad read? Oh my god, like the most replayed part is like after the ad read. That's funny.
I film all these videos and never post them because I'm just like, well, it's not going to get 40 million views. People are going to...
It's like a spoiled kid who makes a mistake and gets in trouble and says that was so bad because they aren't used to being held accountable and believe there are no real world consequences.
What do I do? And it was getting so bad to where my relationship was fucked up. My eating issues were fucked up. I was just in the worst headspace, but I was getting all these views. So it was the weirdest,
smiling at him?
And then I got canceled, thank God, because I figured my shit out. And,
I seem to recall that, when we...
Shane, my ED was back. My relationship was fucked up. My life was over. Steve-O.
got together for your podcast years ago, that you had like a crazy upload schedule that you would put up like 3 videos every week.
Yeah.
And I remember just thinking, how do you come up with that much content? And I think the answer was that you would have regular creative meetings to just determine what are the videos going to be, and then you just make them.
I wish. No. That's a good idea. I've tried to find people in the past that I could do that with, like come up with, things like that.
Didn't you have that with Andrew and Garrett?
Mostly just like back when I was doing 5 videos a week. That was when I was just like, okay, kind of on autopilot. Like, okay, these are the things I enjoy doing. I'm just gonna make videos about them. I'm gonna shoot them all in a day. I'm gonna lose my mind over that. That was a bad time period for me, just because I really was not enjoying it, like, at all. Like, I was like, okay, I have to keep going, because if I stop, people are mad at me, because they're like, why aren't you posting today? What happened to the video? So I was just on autopilot doing it.
I hear YouTubers say that a lot. I'm gonna be honest. I hear YouTubers say that a lot, where they, like, will almost blame their audience for, like, feeling bad about not uploading. They're like, I wasn't uploading and I came back because, I was feeling bad that I wasn't giving my audience uploads. I'm gonna be honest, 90% of the time, the YouTuber just comes back because it's their job and they need to pay, bills and their rent and stuff like that. And they, like, it almost comes across as, like, manipulative to the audience. And I'm trying to think back on, like, because I feel like it's also such a natural thing to say. I don't necessarily think it's a very planned out thing, because I think I've probably said something very similar to it. I've never blamed my audience, but I think I've probably in the past said, like, oh, like, I came back because, like, people were asking, like, why wasn't I uploading? And I think that's a very valid thing to say. But I think whenever a YouTuber, like, really harps on about the fact that I'm going to disappoint people, people are begging me for uploads and blah, 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 blah. And I think to also not address that it's your job and you need to come back and upload, I feel like it's a really interesting way in saying it. And, like, whenever I hear someone else say it, it kind of would make me cringe if I've ever said that, and I would assume that I've said that. So, like, hearing, again, someone else say it makes me cringe to the fact that I've probably said that, and it does come across as that, so if I've ever said that, I apologize. And I mean, it can come from a very, like, true place and stuff like that. Like, people are asking, I think mainly, like, my Twitch streams, whenever people were like, oh my god, I finally have a day off work today, and I would have been able to watch a stream, and you're not streaming. That makes me feel bad, but I'm not, if I'm not streaming that day, for whatever reason, I'm not streaming that day. And then, I stream whenever I have fun. I stream whenever I whatever. And then there's days where, I need to come on and stream because I need to come on and stream. Like, I think both can be true. So, I'm out of focus. Hold on. Hello? There we go. But yeah, hearing someone else say it makes me, like, hate that I've ever said that.
And then I got into a pretty serious relationship, and I started posting less, and I started, like,
When when all the kind of world's crumbling around you, and you're going from 40 million views on a video, and then all of a sudden now you're not posting, or even before that, were you thinking about, like, just taking the money that you had earned in your career and putting it to work for you in other ways, so that you don't have to be in the spotlight anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I never had... I don't have, like...
Hello.
Such a weird thing to talk about, but I don't want people to think I don't know, whatever, doesn't matter. I don't have as much money as I think people think I do, because the makeup thing, people thought I made like $20 million, and I did not. And I've never killed it on YouTube, like...
Then? What, was the conspiracy series a lie then? Like, what? Because we watched your ass sit with Jeffrey, and Jeffrey tell you you're going to take home that amount of money. Whether we believed it or not, we were told that. So what, are we the ones that have been lied to? Or how can you complain that people think you have more money than what you do, whenever you've centered your career in the past couple of years very much so around money? And also, every single one of his podcasts have multiple sponsors on it. I don't think I've ever seen a video from him in recent time that hasn't been sponsored in some way. Like,
financially, just because my videos have been controversial. So it's not like I had enough money where I could just retire or something. So, but I did...
20 million just really wouldn't cut it.
I didn't know. I was like, okay, around right before I got canceled, I was really depressed. I didn't know what I was going to make.
So let me play devil's advocate. How can you say that you haven't made enough money to retire, yet you took, like, a year and a half off of YouTube, and within that time you were buying property and moving states and buying animals, like, not like dogs and cats, like big animals. So, like, and then you're also saying that you didn't need to come back to YouTube. The only reason is because you were feeling inspired again. So how can both be true? They can't. You're lying.
Making next, I felt uninspired. I felt like, okay, I already did everything on YouTube I wanted to do. I want to make a movie, but nobody's giving me the money to make a movie. So I was going to fund my own movie, which would have cleaned me out. But I was like, but it's going to be worth it because I'm crazy. I'm like, it's going to be worth it and blah, blah, blah. And then I got canceled and I didn't do it. Thank God. That would have been the stupidest decision in the world. But, so yeah, sorry, I forgot your question. Yeah.
Well, it's just like...
Thank God I got canceled.
Kind of... I've viewed it as a way of getting out of the attention whore business.
Yes.
You know, I'm an attention whore. And, like, for me, the ultimate dream, the ultimate goal is to...
That's such a good point. I feel like he uses those things to get sympathy, but in the same breath, is blessed enough to move on and take a break makes no sense.
To have an out. If it's some, like, some business thing that I can get going. Like,
well, you can see yourself in a situation where you're out of the camera's eye.
I mean, like, I was
Like, no, never.
I actually like this podcast setup. I mean, the conversation at times is annoying me because it's like, I feel like I'm being lied to. However, I kind of like the setup of this podcast and I like the flow of it. What other guests does Steve have on? Anyone? Lisa Vanderpump! Mom, I don't know if you're still here, but he has Lisa Vanderpump on. I don't know if she's still here, but... Ooh, I want to watch this one.
help.
Stick a cork up your ass when you have diarrhea.
Look at the difference in the atmosphere between that and this.
I'd like to get in front of a camera because it's my choice to.
Okay.
Not
Right.
because...
The difference in energy.
I do not want to not be okay in front of 20 million people. Wear a diaper.
It's like, you know, for me, the most upsetting, like, traumatizing...
Holy shit! Wow!
He said that one thing you can do is...
Wow, just completely different atmosphere, right?
Like, the guy has to do it because it's...
Smiles.
He's in the service industry, but
Happiness.
it's like, it's humiliating.
Yeah.
Wow, I really want to watch this one. Sorry, who else does he have on? I'll get back to it in a second. I just want to, like... Because I really actually am enjoying his podcast. I don't really know any of these people. I know Lisa. Do we recognize anyone? Oh my god, I thought this was Lady Gaga. I don't really know any of these people. Well, at least I got Lisa. Miss Vanderpump. Yeah, I really don't know any of these people. I just can't get over the difference in the attitude with the Shane one. The vibe is just completely different. Damn, I really don't know any of these people. Sharon Osbourne. She's a little twat. Demi Lovato. Don't really care for her. Alright, well, at least I got Lisa Vanderpump.
Depressing stuff is...
God, now I know that another fun one like this exists. I almost don't want to go back to the other one.
Vegas, because I might be sitting in this seat going with you.
It's just, it's like a different
taking the
vibe.
tour bus.
Are you?
To
Why, what are you going to do?
documentaries / biopics about like Hollywood personalities, movie stars, entertainers who like in the final stages of their life were dead broke and like doing everything they could to milk their former self and their former, you know, like
just like Mike Tyson did Hangover 2 just to fuel his cocaine habit because he didn't have any more money. That could be wrong, but like he was like, dude, these guys were like, what the fuck's this guy doing on here? And he's like, I just had to get some money for my cocaine.
I can't even imagine he got that much money for that. But like people that come to mind, there's a movie called Stan and Ollie, and it's the story of Laurel and Hardy. And here these guys were in their, like,
Laurel, Yanny. That, the story of that.
60s and 70s, like going on tour, like beating themselves up, doing all this slapstick
Like Judy
comedy.
Garland.
Judy Garland, perfect example. Buster Keaton. You know, Buster Keaton's the biggest legend ever, the most iconic, like, old school Hollywood guy. And in his late years, he was just down and out. And, like,
world.
I don't want to be like dead broke in the later stages of my life. I don't want to be having to beat myself up like for money. I don't want to just be in that undignified situation. So I'm always trying to think about a way to get out.
Do you have an end number in mind of where you can retire? You don't have to say it, but like, is there a number?
I do not.
No. Well, let's start there and we can work backwards.
Yeah, that's what
I
Rosie
think that's
O'Donnell
the
did.
first
Sorry,
laugh
Zach.
I've
But
seen.
she had a goal.
Yeah, so she's like one of my favorite talk show hosts when I was little, and she had her talk show, and it only went for like 4 or 5 years, and she canceled it, and they were like, "Why you were making all this money?" And she's like, "I hit 100 million in my bank account," and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm out."
Yeah.
And she's been out since. I mean, she went back for a few things, but yeah, like 100 million in her mind was like the number, and I was like, "Damn, that is so crazy." It's so crazy to think about that much money, but also to think about like, it was only 4 years. She could have kept going for another 15 years, and she would have $1 billion, but she didn't care. Like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah. You're going to hate me for doing this, but I'm going to go deep.
Shane's being like, I can't imagine that much money. But again, didn't you tell us that you got $20 million just on that one makeup sale? I don't get it. I don't get it. We're kind of feeding into this, like, you know, per not understanding money thing again. How can you post that video? How can you post that video and be like, oh my god, you know, $20 million deal, and then all this money on, you know, restocks and merchandise and blah, 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 and then be like, oh my god, so much money someone else is making, I can't even fathom it.
Okay.
You brought up the fact that like you didn't want to come on people's podcasts because you felt like
this part.
Get something out of that, and I've talked to a lot of people that have, and you know, but yeah, I don't know.
what is like cutting? Like why do people cut? Is it because they don't feel?
Getting tattoos to cover up his cut scars, and I was like,
about
what? And then
So when I was younger, I was alone because my parents divorced, and he's like, okay, why was that so bad? And it's like, well, because it was my fault that my parents divorced, and so like once he made her flip her script on like it wasn't her fault that her parents divorced, she stopped washing her hands so much. But he had like hundreds of cases like this where he would just go through it, and it's all just a stem of fucking whatever, you know?
wow.
Yeah, it sucks to squander the moments that could be wonderful with worry about things that have not even happened.
And 99% of them never do. You know?
It's so true.
I think so.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in the final analysis, my life will have been squandered.
Ooh, this camera angle is awful. Ooh, I hate the warping. Ooh, I hate this.
Over worry about.
Ooh,
Just
ooh,
gonna
jump
keep playing that
scare.
video.
And I know, and I look at like our work schedule. You know, we've just been gone in Australia and New Zealand for a month and a week, and it was like a pretty miserable existence. You know, if
I
we're
got out there
honest.
like 10 days before you guys, so I was
Right.
just fucking deep in the cut.
It was gnarly.
I feel like this room is like warm and like smells musty as fuck. You know, like that kind of vibe. It's nothing on any of them. It's just like there's no way that room does not stink. I thought it was an RV. Oh, you're right. Well, that actually changes things. I take back my comments.
And you know, and I just have this default setting where it's like everything is
No, it
not going
probably
to be
smells like
okay. I have to
weed.
work, like to try to make it so that everything's going to be okay because it's not going to be okay. I gotta earn, and like my quality of life, like is not important. What's important is later trying to make it so everything's going to be okay. And I'm throwing my present quality of life out.
Where's the RV parked? Like, are they filming this just in like a random McDonald's, you know, parking lot or something like that? That's camp. That's glamping.
Out the window to try to secure okayness in the future, and I'm still convinced that everything's not going to be okay.
Yeah, well, you don't even have an end number in mind that you're working towards. You're just
Right.
digging.
Who
Yeah,
is driving
fucking-
this bus?
How many feet do you want to go down? I don't know. Just digging.
I love Scott Randolph, but did he just act?
Oh my god, so many sponsors. Time and place.
He's still gonna be fucking. Will you tell him that a blue check mark isn't that big of a deal on Instagram?
Oh, you want a blue check?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Isn't it not real anymore?
Oh,
Like,
he's driving the bus. Who's driving the bus? Him.
Yeah, I heard you can pay for it now.
Yeah, now you can pay for
which
it.
is lame.
Yeah. I just had a crazy brain fart.
What would
You have to pay for it now, which is lame. I wonder if Shane is verified. Shane Dawson, Twitter. I don't think so. Oh, he is. So he paid for it. Okay. All right. Let's hold our judgment then, guys.
do you have any goals? I mean, what's going on with, like, what do you want to do out of life now, or like any new perspective shift, or like is there a new Shane Dawson? Like, what's changed? What do you want to do with your life? What do you have any purpose?
Yeah, I mean, my life, we're having a baby, hopefully 2 or 3. So we're doing that. And I mean, the surrogate is being implanted in a few weeks. So that's happening, which I'm so excited about.
How much legal red tape is there before that? Because isn't it like a...
And the prices. That's the darkest part, is pressing purchase on a mother. Like, it's like...
What, on a surrogate?
Well, so that's the other thing I didn't know. So egg donors, this might be boring, sorry guys. Egg donors is different. So like the egg donor is who is the mother, and then they put your sperm in the egg, and then they put it in a surrogate who has no like connect. They're
No genetic...
Right.
Yeah.
Whose
So they're two
sperm did
different
they
persons.
put in there? You or your husband?
So we did both of our sperm. In
Oh, so you guys
eggs.
just do a double batch?
And then you just mixed it together.
They cook it all up. And, well, that's the other thing, too, because I'm like, well, I mean, I know what I look like as a girl. It's not great. But I'm like, but do I want... Oh, never mind. I was going to say something really dark. But yes, so it is...
Wow, you're showing progress here.
Thank you. Well, I'm thinking about my future kid watching...
What were you gonna say that was really dark? To do with if you had a daughter?
Listen, you know what I mean?
There you go.
That changes everything. Like, if I would have known I was going to have kids one day that would have the internet, that everything stays there forever, and then they can go and be like, Daddy, what is this? I never would have done any of it. I mean, I don't regret it. I think everything happens for a reason, but...
He doesn't regret any of the things he did on the internet? Dude! What? What do you mean? What do you mean? What the fuck? You do not regret anything you've done on the internet. Right. Okay. Makes sense.
So yes, we're cooking them up.
What do you mean by cooking them up?
I was going along with his mixing thing, but
Right.
you know, like, so yeah, we have 12 potential children, I believe. 12. 6 of mine, 6 of his. Or do we have 24?
Sperm.
I don't remember. Yes.
Oh, so you're saying there's 12 eggs,
Yeah.
and they can keep an egg viable like in a freezer?
Well, that's the other thing. So the embryos. So the number kind of keeps going down. It's like, oh, we got 30 whatever eggs. Okay, only this many survived. Okay, only this many sperms attached. So now we're left with 12, 6 boys, 6 girls, 6 of mine, 6 of his.
And they're embryos.
And they're frozen. So they're like 2 weeks old each, which I didn't know.
2-week-old.
I'll give credit where credit is due. The way Shane is talking about this is a lot more interesting than when Trisha went on Meghan Trainor's podcast and talked about the exact same thing. I was falling asleep during that podcast, and I'm really tired and really hungover right now, and I'm still engaged in this conversation. So, shout out at being a little bit more interesting than when Trisha went on fucking Meghan Trainor's podcast, and Jesus, oh my god, I have trauma flashbacks to having, sitting through that, and in my head being like, okay, we probably only have 20 minutes left, and I look and we have an hour 40 left. So, it was just the worst stream ever. It just went on and on and on. It was the worst stream ever.
Like, human babies?
Right. Well,
yeah.
And now I'm thinking, I gotta bring them all. Because, what, there's just mean some frozen forever that are 2 weeks old? They're alive in my head. I don't know. Maybe that's...
Han Solo.
So what, you want to have all 12?
No, I don't know.
At the same time?
No, well, no.
Like fucking Octomom? Is that
That's the new Shane. No,
that's your new
Yeah.
show.
A reality show, and I would
Yeah, that's-
explode.
Why do they only introduce that guy like nearing the end of the podcast? Right? Like the driver. Why is he only introduced to us at like the very end? That feels very mean. Let him be a part of the conversation from the start, please. That's very, very, very mean.
Thanks.
He was fashionably late. Well,
Bad track records for
Yeah.
for those things.
Yeah, no. So I mean, I think we want to have 3 kids, but now that we have 12,
he was
I don't know what to
driving.
do.
Where are they
Start
going?
Giving them to people? I don't. That's bad. I can't do that.
There's the auction button on your website.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So there's that. I mean, but as far as like career stuff, I just really want to make
A movie, we
a
know.
horror movie. That's kind of I have 2 scripts written, and
We know.
one of them kind of fell through in the last couple months. So now I'm kind of rerouting and trying to get this one made. But yeah, that's kind of my goal. But that's gonna. I mean.
I'm more like I'm not quite satisfied yet with the surrogate. Like
Okay.
and I'm just interested. It's very common, I think, that a surrogate mother will, after growing this baby inside of them, have some attachment, and then like get cold feet or whatever, and say, I don't want to give up the baby. It's my baby.
Right.
Wait, I have a question. Legally, can that happen? My like only experience of this is like Friends. You know, whenever Phoebe has her brother's triplets. Was it 3 of them? Yeah, it was triplets. And then she like didn't want to give them up. I mean, she ended up doing because Rachel was like, "You need to give them up." Is that something legally you can do? Where like if you're the surrogate mother, I want to Google that. Can surrogate mother keep baby or change her mind? A surrogate mother can change her mind and refuse to give up the baby. Cases like this are rare, but they can happen. It's a lingering worry for the parents. What happens if a surrogate wants to keep the baby? Can a surrogate decide to keep the baby? In England and Wales, the surrogate will continue to be the legal mother of the child until such time as parental order is obtained. A parental order requires both the surrogate and the spouse to consent. A surrogate almost always has the option to change her mind. The intended parents cannot change their mind and force you to raise the baby yourself. The surrogate mother could change her mind and not sign the documents required for the change. It then becomes a nasty, expensive legal battle. Woo! I didn't know that, actually.
I wasn't aware of the baby inside them not being genetically theirs. That's a different wrinkle. But presumably they still have some kind of attachment.
So the surrogate can legally keep the baby, I think. So does the paperwork only get signed after the baby's born? I feel like that would be something that would like really stress me out.
And there's all kinds of legal paperwork, like, so what's the legal process like in establishing the agreement with the surrogate? And what's the interpersonal kind of, do you develop a relationship with them before picking them?
Right. Yeah, it was wild. We started like a year and a half ago. Actually, no, I think just a year ago. And so first we had to pick the egg donor. And we instantly, both of us knew. We didn't tell each other, but we knew the donor. And then I said it and he said it. And we were like, oh my God, that's the one. So we picked her.
Why? What about her?
I don't know. It was just like a weird, like, God,
My sister
universe thing.
had a sperm donor. She was artificially inseminated. My niece, who was such a fan of yours. And what struck me about the process was that by the time you make it through all of the screening, they've determined that there is no no medical problems to worry about, like going through the whole family tree. Everybody in the family tree is all healthy into their like 80s, like they're all like college educated, like it's just great. It's almost like the Olympics of being an impressive person. That you have to like, by the time you become a donor, like you're just kind
It's
of
crazy. I actually never knew that. I thought it was I thought sperm donating, it's not the right word for that. Like donators, I thought like the entire process of that was like a lot more unregulated, or not more a lot more unregulated, but a lot more what's the word I'm looking for? Easier, because I've heard stories of people saying, that people become sperm donors, to make money or whatever like that. But then how would they do that if it's such an invasive thing?
documented as being like just the picture of health and accomplishment. And so that is pretty impressive.
Well, the thing with sperm donors too, because my therapist, we were talking about it, and she had used sperm donor in the past, and she was like, what's crazy is like, when you're picking the sperm donor, there's like levels, like financial levels. Like, okay, if you pay an extra $100, you can get a voice note from them, so you can hear their voice. If you pay another $100, they'll draw you a picture. I'm like, this is the most
GoFundMe.
fucked. It's like OnlyFans.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So it's bizarre.
I didn't know they
the
did that.
The whole process is extremely depressing and amazing, and it took a lot of like mental gymnastics to figure out how to not get depressed about it. But after meeting both of them and
The
really,
egg donor and the surrogate.
yeah, and getting their story.
Oh my god, wait, it literally has just clicked in my head. I don't think I got it up until then. So it's not the surrogate and, the sperm of the person. It's like someone else's egg too. Oh my god, that never clicked in my head. I just watched it, it didn't click in my head. I did not know that, actually. I did not know that. I didn't know that it was like two external, people. Well, then that adds to the conversation of can the surrogate keep the baby, because the baby genetically is not hers at all. That's an interesting conversation.
Reason why they're doing this, because that was my fear. I'm like, well, what if how could they have the baby and not want to keep it? How is that possible?
Right.
But the girl who's donating the eggs, she was born through egg donors because her parents used them. So she had like a connect.
I need to Google how much do surrogates get paid in USA? Wow! Oh, I thought that was monthly. Sorry, I thought that it was I thought it was $50,000 to $60,000 per month. Like, I thought it was per month. I literally thought it was per month. How much money would that have been? 50,000 for 9 months. Oh my god. I literally thought it. That's why my jaw dropped. I thought it was this every single month. I'm sure it could be for like celebrities. She also gets paid another 5,000 to 10,000 in various benefits. Surrogates with unique qualifications such as living often receive an additional 10,000. You can make up to $72,000. Surrogate mother compensation can range from 190. If it's base pay of $55,000. In the UK, this seems very low in the UK. In the UK, $12,000 to $20,000? Or is that just the compensation? This seems really, really, really low. Like, the maximum in the UK to make is $20,000? That seems very, very, very low. What? Up to, so like capped at £25,000. I don't think that's enough. I just... $20,000 for 40 weeks of pregnancy is $70 a day. I just think that, like, growing a baby, like, the checks beforehand and after, I feel like that is low. Ooh, this is an interesting question. What happens in the attempt of generally most surrogates who accept compensation are paid per milestone? Okay. Okay. Trigger warning for like 30 seconds. Talking about a pregnancy that doesn't last for like 30 seconds. If you don't want to hear, mute me for like 30 seconds. So this question popped up, and it was like, do surrogates get paid if the baby doesn't survive? And if anyone else is curious, because I've never thought about that before, it says, what happens in the event of a failed transfer or the baby not making it? Generally, most surrogates who accept compensation are paid per milestone rather than paid per month. So when your contract is signed, you'll receive payments for milestones, such as the start of medication, the embryo transfer, different weeks. But what happens if they take a lump sum? Okay, sorry. Okay, back again.
Connection to that. She's done it once before. And her whole thing was, she was like, I would love to be in some kind of, I'd like to be updated or be,
Okay.
I don't want it to be a thing where I give my eggs and I don't know anything after that. And I was like, great, because I wanted to be able to tell our kids.
Sounds like entanglements. Sounds like strings attached. You gotta deal with this person.
I wanted that, though, because I want to be able to tell my kids one day, because, listen, I'm realistic about it, too, and some people get mad when I say this, and by some people, I mean people in my family, but I'm like, I want to be honest with my kid. I know they're going to see a commercial where there's a mommy, and they're going to be like, why don't I have a mommy? And they're going to have some issues with that. They're going to be sad about that. And I want to be able to explain it to them. And also, when they're ready, show them a picture. Or, I don't want it to be this weird, fucked up secret that fucks them up.
That sounds like egg donor is way different than sperm donor, because in the case of the sperm donor, it's you can find out their whole family tree's medical history, their whole family tree's education history, like everything about them, but you cannot, like, legally, you cannot get their name, or like, it's sort of a rite of passage for adopted kids to go and try. Like, you hear about it a lot, and it's like
Shady.
It's a thing. But in the case of someone who was artificially inseminated with this donor sperm, there is no rite of passage for my niece to go and find her biological father, because it is, like, legally precluded. You definitely cannot get a picture of the person.
Well, I also, now that I'm thinking about it, I really hope I don't want to offend anybody that, I don't want it to seem like, if you don't know who your father is or your mom
hey, dude.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it like
that. Don't trip, because I think that's just natural, human consideration.
Right. Yeah, I mean, but it is, with the surrogate too, so she's done this before. And I asked her, like, how do you, because she has kids of her own, I'm like, how do you explain this to your kid, that you have other babies?
It's an interesting question.
Whatever. And so she had like a word for it, like surro sister. So, like, she's very open with her daughter, and I just want it to be open. I don't want it to be weird or like secretive, just because my childhood had a lot of some secretive weird shit, and I think that is in turn what made me really.
I know that he went back on what he said, because he was like, I don't want to call anyone, that doesn't know their parents or doesn't know, biological parents in any way, fucked up or whatever. I do think that it, like, he said it wrong. He said it wrong. He shouldn't have said that, because whatever. What I also agree with is, like, he's allowed to say that, in his childhood he dealt with, not being told the truth about things or whatever, and that really messed him up and stuff like that. I think he's also really valid in wanting to, like, let his kid know about their process of coming into the world. It's on YouTube as well, by the way. Like, this is literally, like, not even, this is not even something that, like, is shocking to me, because of course your child is going to know about, you know, it's a surrogate baby, and of course all like this, which is absolutely normal and absolutely fine. The reason they're going to know is not because you're going to tell them, is because they're going to find out on youtube.com/Shane Dawson and Rylan Adams. So let's not act like this is like some like very secretive thing that you're going to, you know, tell them or whatever like that. You're actively, you know, making a lot of money off of, you know, telling people about this right now. So
Delve into food and fucked up a lot of things for me. Once again, everything happens for a reason, so I'm fine with it. But, you know, I just want to, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out.
What's your food of choice?
Okay, let me think. Well, I mean, nachos. I guess I didn't have to think. Anything Mexican food. Mexican burrito. Oh my god.
Carbs.
I'm a sugar guy.
I'm a carbs guy.
Really?
Sugar for me
Yeah.
I
too.
guess I'm both.
I'm
I mean,
not a
I like
sugar
Mexican
person.
food, but I also like, I like desserts. I mean, I don't know when I'll ever figure that out. Like,
It's a hard one because you have to eat.
you have to, and because I was like 400 pounds in high school, and then
Wow. I'm
I
definitely
lost
a
like
salt.
200 pounds when I was 18 through very unhealthy ways, and I kept it off for a long time. But then it's like, when you fuck up your metabolism that much, you kind of have to starve yourself to stay thin, and that's when I started YouTube. And then, you know, so I've just gone up and down and up and down, and now I don't weigh myself, so I don't even know what I am anymore. But I thought I'd be done with this by now.
Your unhealthy ways were laxatives.
No, I mean,
Because
okay, I'm gonna mute this. I just don't think I or you will benefit from hearing how he's gonna talk about how he lost weight.
I don't know what the cause of my esophageal issues was. Acid reflux, barfing, drugs. Like, man.
Where did I get the pickle? You can get them on Amazon. I only like the Hot Mama pickle though. I only like a very, very, very specific one. It's Hot Mama pickle, and they never fucking have it on Amazon. They have them in those American candy shops, but I couldn't be bothered. Here we go. Let me make sure of course my. Oh my god, they have them back in stock! Wait, they're back in stock. Anyway, this is the one that's on Amazon. Hold on, they're back in stock. Bitch, they never are back in stock. They never have them in stock. Amazon. Hold on.
yeah.
wow. So hope nobody's eating. Sorry if I just brought
No,
like,
I mean, we all have fucking issues. You just never know, you know?
right.
We all look different, but we have the same issues.
Oh yeah, especially like
12 pack? Oh, wait. I ordered this. It's like a 12 pack of them, right? I ordered them, and dill pickles show up at my door. A pack of 12 dill pickles. Don't ever, 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 ever send me dill pickles when I order spicy pickles. Don't do that. And it wasn't even Hot Mama or like Van Holden's, you know, which is the company, pickles. It was like, what was it? It was like some random ass company, dill pickles. I have never been so upset in my entire life, actually. Did I ever try pickle shots? With tequila? No, I didn't try it, but I did drink a lot of pickle juice on that stream. Okay, I'm gonna order these, and I will update you whether they do come or not, or whether there's something else. I will be so upset. When are they gonna arrive? The 16th. I have to wait 2 days. Anyway, I've ordered them, and I'm gonna be very, 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 very upset if they send me the wrong ones.
yeah,
I genuinely
food
mean
stuff
like
is-
really
yeah,
upset.
I mean, I'm almost 35. I was like, how?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry for stopping. I did make I always wanted to try what's it called? Like, what's that drink where it's like dirty fucking whore little, you know, slag little, you know, slut. What are they, where it's like really like graphic, the name of it? What's it called? Where it has olives. You know, where can I get like a dirty little whore, you know,
Did you ever try the pickle shots?
what's the name of that drink? What is the name of that drink? Martini, dirty martini. I always wanted to try a dirty martini. Never tried olives before. Bye, Laris. Thank you for being here. But I had pickle juice. So I got a pickle juice and I put it in the mixer thing, mixed it, and I put way too much vodka in it, so I kind of fucked it up for myself. But the problem was I drank half of this because I really couldn't get through because it was just too strong vodka. I drank half of it and was like, ooh, this is making me quite sick. And it was also making me really, really, really tipsy because it was really drunk. I need to try gin then. I don't know if I like gin. And I got really tipsy off of like half a drink, which never happens to me. Like never happens. I would say I have a pretty good tolerance. And I show up to the party really tipsy. And I also show up to the party after using mouthwash, brushing my teeth twice, just burping up fucking Moonchild, thank you for being here. Oh my god, enjoy. Just burping up like the most rancid like pickle smell ever. And then I've learned that, you know, the dirty martinis with olives are even more, you know, potent. And I'm like, I see people at business meetings with a dirty martini. I see people on first dates with a dirty martini. Are pretty self-explanatory, but like, bitch, that breath. The breath? A first date? That's crazy. That's crazy.
In my head when I was little, I was like, oh, by the time I'm in my 30s, I'm going to be fine. Like, I'm not going to have any problems. And every year it does get a little easier because I care a little less what I look like. But it still does come down to like, you know, in my head, I'm 400 pounds. And I feel, even like, to be honest, so I would say 50% nervous about doing this because I didn't want to be a bad guest because I didn't want to be afraid to answer stuff and be weird. My other 50% was like, oh, I feel fat. Especially right now. I'm like, oh, I feel fat, so I'm going to look fat. Like, oh my God, whatever. So it's like, yeah, it's still something that's like...
Did I go through this?
I'll always have sympathy whenever anyone's talking about issues related to appearance or, you know, eating or something like that.
Same shit every day.
I'm fucking stoked it's cold outside.
I'm
I get to
wearing
wear
a fucking jacket.
dude.
That's what when he pulled up, and I ran outside and I was sweating and I had my jacket on and I looked in here and I'm like, oh, it could get hot in there and I'm wearing a jacket, but like there's no other fucking option. Like, I'm wearing this fucking jacket.
You know somebody has body dysmorphia when they're wearing hoodies in the summer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like in Australia I fucking did it. It was fucking 107.
Yeah, and then you just have to lie to people and be like, "No, I'm like weird.
I run
I'm like
cold
fine like this." They're like, "You're sweating," and I'm like, "Oh,
am I? Don't
Really?
judge me." And you just deflect it.
Just showered."
I find that I'm feeling a great deal of compassion for you, and you know, like I see.
Where'd that come
like,
from?
I can.
You're honest. You're vulnerable.
Literally, where did that come
feel
from?
like the trauma of like everything that's happened with.
Oh my god, that's like that Jamie Lee Curtis. Anyone know that Jamie Lee Curtis thing where it's like clips from her compilation from promoting Halloween Kills, and she's like trauma, generational trauma. Wait, where is it? Jamie Lee Curtis trauma.
It's a movie about trauma.
It's a movie about trauma. The movie is about trauma. The 2018 movie obviously was a movie about trauma. The whole last movie was a study in trauma. It's a lot about rage and trauma colliding. Trauma and evil meeting. They made a movie
Steve-O.
about female trauma. Well, it's nostalgia, but it's nostalgia based on trauma. What does trauma really look like? This is what trauma looks like. Lori is really dealing with a lot of post-traumatic stress, PTSD.
This is Steve-O just talking to Shane.
I liked that it was a movie about trauma, and I liked that it explored it through generations. Family trauma, generational trauma, family trauma, you know.
Me on the first date.
Generational trauma. Yeah. Trauma.
This is like, you know, there can be 100 people in the room. You know, the Lady Gaga.
There can be 100 people in the room and 99 don't believe in you. But I had this one incredible talent with me. There can be 100 people in the room and 99 don't believe in you, and you just need one to believe in you, and that was him. So you can have 100 people in the room that are watching you and 99 don't
I wonder if this is like a case study in like media training then, where like the publicist will be like, you better say this line every single time.
Believe in you, and one does, and that was him. So, you know, there could be 100 people in the room and 99 don't believe, but all it takes is one.
I love watching this because in every single one, she focuses on a different word. She can be like, there can be 100 people in the room. Or she'll be like, there can be 100 people in the room. Or she can be like, there can be 100 people in the room. Or she'll be like, there can be 100 people in the room. There can be 100 people in the room. There could be 100 people in the room. There could be 100 people in the room. So, I love it.
You know, 100 people can be in a room and 99 don't believe in you, and just one person believes in you, and it can change everything. There can be 100 people in the room and 99 don't believe in you, and just one does. You know, there can be 100 people in the room and 99 don't believe in you, and just one does. 100 people and there could be in a one room.
She messed that one up a little bit. But she went back on track.
Right? And 99 don't believe in you, but just one believes, and it can change your whole life. 100 people in the room you can have, and 99 don't believe in you, and just one does. She changed it up a little bit there. Changes your whole life. And there can be 100 people in a room. Maybe there is right now.
I love when she...
And 99 don't believe in you. But all you need is just for one person
she really changed
to believe. I probably said this earlier, but there can be 100 people.
She said it twice on this night. Oh god, I love it. I loved it, and then it like became a meme that like people were like confronting her about it. It was so funny.
You know, cancel culture, and I kind of like, you know, I can just maybe it's like you know, empathy, but I can feel your pain, and it makes me you know, it cultivates compassion. You know, I want to like.
There we have the word. Do you remember 57 minutes ago when we talked about that word? Compassion.
I want everything to be okay for you.
Thank you. That's the nicest thing ever. I mean, sorry that I'm making you feel bad.
No. I mean, it's not like...
Yeah, like that's...
Yeah, you're going to make me feel bad, but it's like... Compassion. You know, like Scott said, you know, here you've... you know, like the fact of you being nervous, I
mean, I could see the... indicators of like picking your fingers, like you're uncomfortable talking about this shit. Clearly, you're blowing out. You're like,
yeah, but to Scott's point,
but that's real. That's vulnerable.
Yeah, to Scott's point, there's like You know,
we should do a tipsy stream where we take a shot every time he says the word. Do you want us to not make it past 9 minutes of drinking?
It's okay if you pick.
Do you want us to die?
I know. No, I'm like, oh fuck.
No, I always notice things like that with people because I mean I'm the same way too. You know?
I remember. At you know, one of our sober functions, talking to a sober.
Hear that, muckers? Sober functions. So let's focus more on that. Chloe, thank you so much. Chloe, that's so sweet. Thank you.
Guy.
Thank you.
And just expressing to him that that like I felt really just ashamed of what. You know, what I had become, like, what I turned into.
Just pickle juice so we don't get messed up. Yeah, but we'll mess up the toilet in the morning if we do that much pickle juice. Let's weigh the pros and cons here.
With drugs and alcohol, and I was like, yeah, like...
bit my tongue.
It's probably not good to be so, like, shameful about it. And this guy said, no, dude.
I just, like, forcefully bit my tongue. I, like, heard a pop. Oh, my God.
Like, regret is absolutely
my mouth
healthy.
Is watering. Oh my god, my mouth is watering.
For all the compassion I feel for you.
Oh my god, I just bit my tongue and like my mouth is filling with saliva. And like I said, I'm really hungover today and it's literally making me feel like I need to throw up. Oh my god. Oh, pull it together, Adam. Oh my god. I'm literally about to start crying. You know that taste, like the metal, like saliva taste? It's like triggered my I was throwing up so bad last night from after, like literally before I even went to bed. That's how drunk I was. Oh my god. I'm determined to finish this.
And important and the way forward. You know, and I think that when Scott points out that you're nervous about this, that you know that that there's that, like, it takes me back to that sober guy telling me how valuable regret is. You know, regret things that that you're never going to learn from your mistakes unless you properly regret them.
Yeah, and you don't get humbled. I mean, I think back to like how I was in high school, and people like talk about, you know, from like 16 to fucking 24, like I don't like to think back about the person I was because
me right now.
I mean, I was a fucking
I have my phone
asshole.
on again.
Anytime Scott starts a story with one time when I was in high school, you know it's going to be the most outrageously entertaining story.
Yeah, I mean, but like I don't even like to identify with that person anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
But do you consider regret and shame the same thing?
What an interesting question. Regret and shame, are they the same thing? If I regret something versus being ashamed of something. Huh. I was about to say shame is feeling bad, but like regret is, yeah, they're different.
No.
I'm shameful of most of my past, but I don't regret most of it.
Ooh, other way around.
Yeah.
You wanna constructively regret things, remember mistakes, and regret them constructively so as to not repeat the behavior.
For sure.
But
Oh my god.
shame, as I understand it, is not constructive. That's like you regret an action.
Mm-hmm.
You have shame about a person. Like shame is more. I'm shameful of who I am.
Okay.
And what I am, versus like separate the action from the person.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I suppose it follows that you do something
You
you're ashamed
regret
of.
it, but people, I think what addiction comes down to is a shame addiction. Like you're addicted to feeling the shame.
I always appreciate conversations like this regardless of who's having them. I really do. I think they're important. Whether it's to do with sobriety, whether it's to do with, body dysmorphia, whether it's to do with, all these different things. I think it's important to have.
Because you feel like a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you want to identify with that shame. So you keep doing shameless acts.
Yeah.
Shameful, yeah.
Shameful.
I remember talking to somebody about like this little inner dialogue, this negotiation about whether or not I'm going to have a dessert after a meal. It's like I want to have it, but I know that I'm going to be ashamed.
Life is so annoying. Hearing him talk about this, and I mean, I can identify with it, at points where it's like, oh my god, how did we go from we didn't ask to be born, we didn't ask to be here, we used to just survive as going around and eating things and I don't know, building stuff. I'm talking centuries ago. How did that turn into just feeling guilty for existing and stuff like that, for different things, whether it's to do with food or whether it's to do with shame or whether it's to do with whatever. It's it's crazy.
Of it. I know that I'm as soon as I get done eating it, I'm gonna regret it. I'm gonna feel ashamed about it. And somebody suggested to me that it's actually more than the pleasure of eating the dessert. The actual reward is the shame, that you choose to eat the dessert because you derive some kind of perverse pleasure in the cycle of shame.
Yeah,
And that you're actually like
I don't agree with that. Anyone else not agree with that? I don't agree with that. He's basically saying that, like, if you struggle with eating, that you like to struggle with eating because there's a reward in feeling shameful for eating. I don't think I've ever disagreed with a statement more. I literally do not think I've ever disagreed with a statement more. That's such a weird thing to say. And if he thinks, okay, people agree? That's so interesting. When it comes to addiction, I totally agree. Oh, yeah, I'm just saying about, like, in terms of, like... Well, I personally disagree with it for myself. But I think it's the addiction and addiction. Huh. Well, I mean, I just personally disagree with it.
it's an exercise in here's an opportunity. I'm going to give myself to beat myself up because there's this perverse.
It's a core belief of like what you believe yourself to be. Like, well, I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And the shame matches up to that like value.
Yeah, I think that's what the cutting is motivated by too.
On the other side of it, it wasn't so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful that I'm comfortable, you know, with, I don't think yeah, because I haven't really talked about this stuff in this type of a way. I try to like make jokes about it or get out of it, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy to talk about stuff. I think it's hard because in my real life, I've moved past it and I'm happy and things are good and like, you know, way better than before I got canceled as far as like my work-life balance and everything is good. But yeah, it's weird. Like the second I start talking about it, I almost like go right back into that place I was in, which shows that I really am not past it because I can so easily fall right back into that feeling of like my life is over.
Well, they say one of the best things about like, and I'm not like preaching 12-step, but I was listening to a guy talk about, one of the good things about like having that at a group level is that when everybody comes into those rooms, there's shame. And the practice of speaking out publicly, like whatever it is that you're, and nobody's judging you, rewires the neurons in your brain to where it becomes easier and easier to talk about because
this conversation's almost a little bit too intelligent for me. They're losing me, I'm gonna be honest. They had me until this point.
When you talk about it, nobody's like saying shit. And you're like, oh, it's not that bad. And that's like one of the benefits of like speaking at a group level, or even with us, like it's not as bad as you think it is in your head. Because you're only as sick as your secrets. So.
Yeah, there's a difference between being in a safe environment with...
They've lost me. They've lost me. I'm gonna finish it because we made it this far, but like, we're talking about like fucking neurons and they've lost me.
Yeah, YouTube
people
world.
that you know aren't gonna be judged, and then subjecting yourself to like mass criticism on like a platform of millions of people. So, but there's certainly, you know.
Wait, so is he saying that Shane enjoys being cancelled because he's, you know, like if we're talking about the ending the, you know, the cycle, isn't he there talking about like Shane is like putting himself up for like public scrutiny, so in a way that's him liking being cancelled? Is that where we're going with that?
No judgment.
Well, thank you for
here.
being here, and
you know,
this is my first stream I've been on. 10 out of 10, great conflict
and I
interactions.
want to
Thanks,
get
all.
better
Well, thank
at
you
like
for
talking
being
about
here.
stuff. I think, and I've tried to do it on my podcast, but then I always just shut down because I don't know. I don't want to. It's just really complicated. It's hard to talk about cancel stuff, cancel culture, when, like, I'm not delusional. I know why I got canceled. I understand it. I get it. I feel sorry about it. But yeah, it was a lot.
I just think there's something interesting in him saying, like, you know, I feel bad about being cancelled, and, you know, I know that I've done things wrong. But didn't he literally 20 minutes ago say he doesn't regret anything he's put on the internet? Didn't he say that? Because I know I'm not misquoting him.
And I don't think any person should be put through that.
He did. Okay,
if I didn't
perfect.
have
Thank you for letting me know.
Rylan, I'd be dead. Like, so I want to at some point talk about it more, because I feel I gotta talk about it in therapy a lot. I'm like, I want to do something for people, because cancel culture isn't just on YouTube.
Okay, here was the point that like I focused on in my video, so I'll touch upon it a little bit here again, but like kind of just let it play. I think this part is one of the parts that annoys me most. He goes on to talk about cancel culture exists within mine and your lives off camera. Like if someone spreads a rumor and gets someone fired at work or whatever like that, or you know, friends lying. I do not think that's comparable to what happened with Shane in any way, and I don't know whether that's his way of just trying to like dilute the reasons he actually was cancelled for. And I think this is why we see the rotation of why Shane gets in shit every couple of years, because he always gets a way out. He finds a way out. And I mean, the fact, again, he said he didn't regret anything he put online or whatever, and everything happens for a reason. I just kind of... You like my shirt? Thank you. Hearing straight men try and be philosophical is mind-numbing.
It's everywhere. It's in people. Like, I've had people that I know who have lost jobs because of a patient who said something that wasn't true, and then this and that. It's like it's happening everywhere, and so many people feel like this. So it's like, yeah, at some point I do want to get better at talking about it, because I am grateful that I am okay after all of that. But it's hard to talk about that, because then people are like, oh, you're trying to fucking feel bad about or be a victim and this and that. So then I just say, well, fuck it, I'm just not gonna talk.
Yeah, I think the worst thing that you can do though is just to like make a joke. Make a joke about it, or at least because then that's just it's a deflection for sure. And I think the more that you're honest and vulnerable about it.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point, like Chloe's saying about like nobody necessarily lied on Shane. It was just kind of like his own stuff was being shown again.
It always reminds me of this, the word personality
there.
comes from the root word persona, which means to wear a mask. And I always, like, the people that have the best personalities in the world just makes me think of like that they're covering up the most. So if somebody's like, hey, what's, like, they're just too on and they're too charismatic, it's like that person's really hurt inside,
right?
So you don't...
I understand why he's saying that, but I feel like that's such a bad point to say, that anyone who projects a happy persona is a miserable person, because then you're not allowing the miserable people to actually get happy, because you're just going to say that they're actually the most miserable person ever. I think I don't agree with that.
No, I think
that there's a lot of people who are struggling that put a smile on and fake their personality to get through, and I 100% agree with that does exist, and that is a very popular thing. And unfortunately, a lot of people that unalive themselves, people will always say they were the happiest person ever. I just think to put it down to everyone who is like that happy or whatever is miserable and has so many secrets and stuff, I think is also a pretty damaging thing to say. I think, like, I understand why he's saying it, but I don't necessarily think we should be talking about it like that, because then it does say that, like, anyone who actually is that way is, faking it, or anyone who's doing that is actually the most miserable person ever, because then you can kind of project how you feel onto that person, and maybe that will then make them miserable whenever they weren't. So there's a double-edged sword that one.
Want to
double-edged
make a joke about anything you've ever done, because it's not funny, and
I like that they said this.
Everybody knows it's not funny, so just be real about it. Just like, fuck, dude, you were pretty honest and vulnerable with us, and that's a lot easier than being like, okay, so anyway.
This is so generalized, and it really closes off the mental health conversation. I'm sorry.
That is so fucking true, because at the beginning, when I started trying to get back into making stuff again, I was really making a lot of jokes about suicide, like too much, borderline. Like, why was I doing that? And in the moment, I try not to do this, but I watched like reacting to the video, because it was my first one back in since I had been canceled, and one of the suicide jokes came up, and the person was just like, and I was like, oh, I just felt so embarrassed. I felt so stupid. Yeah. I was just like, oh, it's like, it put me back.
I'm glad he was able to acknowledge that, at least. I think that was one of my criticisms of that video as well. I'm
high school
glad
when
he
I would be the first
acknowledges
one to make
that,
the
at
fat
least.
joke, so that like people wouldn't, I'm like in on the joke, hee hee, like I get it, I have titties, like whatever. So it put me in that same space where I'm like, oh, so now that's my new thing. I'm trying not to make jokes about how I look, and I'm trying not to make suicide jokes and all these things because they are real, and I do use humor. But yeah, there is a certain point where it makes people feel like, ooh, this is dark.
Yeah, sure.
It's like, oh yeah.
But everybody does it, so don't beat yourself up for it. I mean, fuck, dude.
He has a responsibility for his own growth and realization. I think he can change. An unpopular opinion. No, I think it's pretty popular. I'm a firm believer people can change. However, it's a matter of whether he wants to. It's all up to him. We aren't to that point, though, yet.
I probably made 20 mistakes like that today. But it's like, I think being aware of it really makes a difference to where, like, if you do it, don't beat yourself up. Just like, fuck.
Right.
I did it, and then move on.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
And that is like,
wow,
like
what an ending to the podcast. How did Lisa Vanderpump's end? Like, are they all this awkward at the end?
COVID hit, I thought, how are we going to keep this going? All our restaurants are closed.
I'm so excited to watch this. You have no idea.
I've got all these dogs, got kind. Yeah, no, I don't care how many cameos I do. I'm going to do literally as many, that come in if I can. Well, now I've been on it
Just trying to see how it
COVID.
ends. Hold on.
$398,000 later. That's how many cameos I've done, and that's kind of been, apart from fundraising and us giving money personally, has kept one of the things that kept it going. And it was tenacious. It was ambitious. I keep going.
Okay, so a nice ending. Oh, don't want to click on any of these.
He's depressed in here now, dude.
Oh my god, he goes, it's now depressing in here. Yeah, the ending of the other one was talking about, like, the good things Lisa Vanderpump's doing and stuff like that. Like, wow.
All right, I really was trying to, like, I was like,
Endings
what
are
should I
so
talk
different.
about? Oh, try to think of something funny. Like, yeah, I'm sorry.
Dude, it's
I feel
all,
like I ruined the vibe.
I think, for what it's worth, I think that Scott's points are valid. I think that, to show up and kind of face everything going on and be nervous about it and accountable for it. I think that's the best you can do, and I think that for what it's worth, that it went really well.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna overthink it later and be like, oh, I fucked that up. But thank you.
And here we are once again.
All right. I will say that the comment section is a lot more positive than what it was whenever I first saw the first clip. So I do want to note that as well, because in my previous video, whenever I just watched the clip, I was like, oh my god, like, let's take note of the comments. I think it's also it's fair for me to say that, look at the comments now. I mean, very, very, very positive. So I think it's important to acknowledge that as well. Anyway, interesting. I wanted to watch it. I'm glad we did. I think it was actually a very interesting podcast. I feel that there were very interesting conversations. At times important conversations, and I genuinely liked the flow of it. Accepted my follow request. Oh. I don't know who that is. Anyway, but yeah, it was pretty enjoyable. I mean, compared to the Trisha Paytas, Meghan Trainor one, 10 times more. And I would like to see Shane get to a stage where he could go on a podcast and not have to talk about, cancellations and, have to make us feel sorry for him, and the title have to be Shane Dawson's struggling. But to get to that point, he has to stop saying that he doesn't regret anything he's done online. He has to stop saying that he's only made apologies out of, like, spite or anger or fear or something like that. He has to stop dancing around the topic of things. Do that, you'll stop getting cancelled every 2 years. I promise you. If you make one good video, like what Jenna Marbles did. Here's a clip. Let me talk about it. Apologize for it. Here's another clip. Talk about it. Apologize. Do that with the very popular ones, and then end the video and say that I acknowledge that there is so much more probably out there in regards to this type of content, this type of content, this type of content, and this type of content. While I'm not going to show all of them, because there's a lot, I apologize I understand the impact. I understand, like, do that. If you make that video, he will not get cancelled every 2 years. The reason Shane Dawson gets cancelled every 2 years is because there's not one apology video that people can look back on and be like, oh, okay. That's why Trisha gets in so much shit, because there's not one video. Trisha goes, I talked about it in a bunch of, videos, and it will be like in a clothing haul, the last 10 minutes or something like that. That's what you need to do. I don't mean to sit here and be a bitter bitch when it comes to Shane or Jeff or Trisha or whatever like that. I enjoy talking about the conversations that we have, and we've been doing it for 2-3 years now, and I would have thought that I wouldn't have to spout out what this fucking 30-something-year-old man would have to do, or what, 30-something-year-old woman would have to do, or whatever like that. That's what you have to do. That's what you do. All of this will go away. Maybe not all of it, but most of it will go away, and then people like us will not be able to, like, not hold a grudge, but, like, be able to, like, be on your ass about it, because, you've done what the public need. Like, so, anyways, it was definitely interesting. I appreciate you staying here and watching it with me, and, yeah, bye-bye.